roles are you hiring for? What do you see in the next, say, 6-12 months in ML hiring?
Yeah, I think as Manoj mentioned, there's a lot of scaling challenges around. So if you are somebody who knows how to scale these large language models, whether it's training or inference, you know how to read a profile of a GPU from the TensorBoard or other profiling tools, you automatically become indispensable to those efforts. And so that profile is more like a machine learning infrastructure profile, but it's still widely popular right now. The other profile is that of an ML generalist, where you have the necessary knowledge and theory, but you're actually applying to different domain problems. So that's about looking at a paper and being able to make a decision whether that paper applies to your situation and your problem, and whether it scales. So some knowledge of the scalability limits for different models is important. So for example, if you want to do a ranking problem, do you need an AM? Maybe not, right? So being able to make those trade-offs is something that would be helpful in getting it ahead once you're hired. But I think in terms of just knowledge, firstly the basic knowledge, and then also the knowledge that you already have, which is your engineering background, also is very popular.
There are one thing I want to maybe before answering the question is just to give you this perspective, right? Imagine the world of the cloud computing in the data centers. The infrastructure we all used to develop software that is changing, right? I think it's not your traditional distributed systems anymore. It's not your traditional data centers, traditional creating software-defined data centers, virtual machines. These are if you have taken masters or graduate courses in computer science, one courses or parallel distributed computing, right? What we have been doing so far is distributed computing. In this world, it's all massively parallel computing that is using the supercomputers, right, to create this model. So now, let's talk about that means, do I need to be a supercomputer specialist or do we need to have ML PhD? No, that's actually a fraction of the jobs. Right? This whole ecosystem that surrounds this.
We would love to know that ecosystem.
That is where majority of the jobs. You need to, and this is something whether you are from a storage background or a networking background. Pretty much, we are talking to every infra teams within the infra, every product teams. The reason is, hey, they come and ask, how can we help AML workflows from a networking team, from a database team, from a storage team? Okay, what are the things that we need to do? How do we uplevel our networking? Right, traditional networking does not we cannot just using that. Right? What kind of networking I need to develop? So the only way that you can better help there, you don't even change your domains. Learn AIML in the right way, right? It's a hard skill, it takes time. But then how do you apply your skills there? Right? That's another. You don't have to completely. If you want to change, that's good. If you want to go to the modeling side, that's also good. But I don't think so. We have a bunch of modeling PhDs here, right? So that's why I'm not answering that question. So don't get me wrong here. But this is where I see a lot of opportunities. When you're trying to scale, these are the ways we are scaling. Yes, we have good, a model like Llama. It's only 10, 20 modeling machines. It's not like that. You can guess how many lines of code Llama? Less than 1,000 lines of code. So, but there's a modeling aspect, but I think the infrastructure that is needed to build Llama, that's what hundreds of thousands of engineers are working on. So I think that's where the big opportunity.
Llama is open source, but not open weights. Okay. There is difference.
Yeah.
Right. But yes. That's stupid for lots of models. The open source models and open weights models. Llama is not good. Yeah, it does take a lot to build that. Yeah.
Yes. I just want to make sure that people don't understand that. This is a completely different system. I need a GPU expert, or I need to understand. I need to be a hardware expert, or I need to be a math modeling expert. No, that's actually a small fraction. The rest is the whole ecosystem is that's
what you're saying is because of the ML workloads.
We need to understand AML to help that, right? To build that. Yeah.
So right, and that is catalyzing a lot of other jobs.
Yeah.
In this. And if I'm coming from database or storage side, do I need to still understand ML workloads? Like what it happens, or is it more of a cursory knowledge is sufficient?
No, the storage architecture also needs to change, right? We are crunching. Look at how fast GPUs can do it, right? It can compute really fast. That means you need to feed data faster. Your traditional traditional way of feeding the data from your spinning disk just doesn't work. So what kind of storage or the data infra that you need to build to feed the data fast? Because otherwise you'll be blocking GPUs, right? They are the most expensive resource. So the problems are different, right? But if you understand those problems, then you'll be able to easily able to connect that, connect to those problems.
Right.
Yeah, the question is that, so it sounds like the traditional architectures that are there on cloud, GCP, are just not cutting it. And so a lot of what you're doing is going to on-prem faculties. Or is there some sort of mix, or where is the growth right now?
No. On-prem or cloud, but on the cloud itself, it's not like you are getting, okay, go and give me five EC2 machines or 5 GCP compute machines. No? You are asking, give me 5 or 500 GPUs, but I want them to be connected with like a low latency, high bandwidth network, because otherwise I need a high communication channel as well. So these are all completely set up. Like whether you GPU, we go to Google Cloud, you have GPU clouds. We go to AWS, you have GPU clusters, right? That's a different thing, rather than getting these institutions. It's a different infrastructure for workloads.
So in essence, the cloud is still catching up.
Yeah.
It's catching up in a big way, and you're relying really basically on the infra that is within the company.
Naturally, that's the big. They are predicting more than 50% of the workloads will be AI ML workloads. That means you need to set up different hardware. So naturally, why cloud vendors are investing in all this hardware, right? That's going to be the next big market.
Yeah, I'd say like from our end, I do agree. A lot of like this generalist engineering roles are still very relevant, but I do see a growth where like just like general engineering positions are moving towards machine learning engineering, where like okay, now your specific skills about knowing PyTorch or TensorFlow or something like that is getting more and more important, and it's coming in interview questions, which was not there earlier. So that's just the general trend. I do think that this is still a slow shift. There is like a lot of value towards just like more general problem solving and algorithms being the real main skill set.
Is Cruise hiring as well, I'm guessing?
Yeah, it's extremely slow for now because of multiple reasons. Some having to do with the company itself.
No.
But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think most of the experts, like other panelists, whatever they mentioned, they kind of fill in whatever I'm gonna say, because first of all, specifically company like Disney, those are really big, so they're realizing that there is no way there can be one central machine learning or data scientist team. So they're trying to decentralize them based on each and every business arms. But one thing about ML ops, right? So right now it's gonna be very hot as a title. Though the title of a job from team to team within the same company varies a lot, but still, like as a directionality, having the MLOps skill set, if you can reflect in your resume, for sure it will give you an edge. And going back all the discussions that Manoj was mentioning, right? It's like come back to haunt me sometime. I used to write OpenCV in C++ in CUDA, where my professor asked me, "What is CUDA?" So what I'm trying to say, right? Like means there is no reason to like overlook of your skill set, because that skill set can be very relevant in which viewpoint you are looking in. It can be tied to the AI and ML expertise that you can bring to the team, right? And look for those relevant skill set. So I really like the way you put it. So not necessarily try to all need to be a machine learning modeler, but how your own skill set can be transformed into supporting those ML requirements going forward.
That's like an entry point, right? Like once you get comfortable, you can go as deep as possible, right? Like when I hire some engineers who have ML background, I start with the top layer, right? Once you understand the application, you can go as deep as compiler or the GPU. It's like they have that opportunity, right? So you should be comfortable. Right? I think my main message is don't think that you have to have an ML like a PhD to do it. There are like leverage your skills and then start from being an ML engineer in that role and then see how we can evolve. Right?
So what I'm hearing is, so there are companies who can invest and are investing in building large models. And there are companies like Disney who I don't believe they've put out a large foundational model yet. Or possibly not. Right? You're just a consumer of the models. So the ML roles in both sides are different. And I don't think Cruise either. Cruise is also mostly a consumer.
No, I would say Cruise definitely we produce a lot of our models in house, but like we have a very different approach to
Not
it.
LLMs, I'm guessing.
Exactly. It's like I would say we have considered ourselves to be doing generative AI before LLMs because we try to generate outcomes of what happens in the real world.
So the roles in these two, producers and consumers, I just call it a simplified terms. I know it's grossly simplified, but say producers of models versus consumers of models. The roles in those two companies seem to be of different nature. Then correct me if I'm wrong, but so on the producer side, it's a massive undertaking. There are thousands of people. The workloads are increasing. So you don't necessarily need ML experts everywhere, but you could be coming from storage side and contributing to ML workloads. You do need to understand how it all happens, but you don't need to be modeling everything. Okay. And
That's the hard part, right?
right, that is the hard part. And on the consumer side, what kind of skill sets are required? So it looks like the classical ML supervised and supervised learning skill sets are generally looked for, and Gen AI skill sets are looked for. What else do you look for on consumer side?
Yeah, I think like it means no matter before going into machine learning or data science, right?
Yeah.
Like the problem solving skill. Because like everyone would be agreeing like the way machine learning work is kind of like 99.99% of the problem that we solve in the business day to day, it fits to a certain context. Able to identify the context, right? Because all the supervised and unsupervised models is very attuned to some kind of business problem. So not necessarily everyone who is getting hired know each and every problem statement, right? But knowing that, if you like, for example, I have some questions that I ask, solve a machine learning problem without use of the self machine learning problem solution. Because that kind of change, give the vision to the interviewer within that 45 minutes or an hour. What is it's not necessarily you are taking a predefined model or pre-training model and using it to solve the business problem, but what are the other tools that you can use without using the conventional ML model? So problem solving and how you can able to attribute it to the domain of ML algorithms without using off-the-shelf algorithms. Those things are also very important.
Yes. So that's an interesting segue into say engineering versus science, or like ML engineering versus data science. Right? And Raju, you have done both, or Sai, you have done both. That's right. Okay. How do you see those two roles different now and going forward?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, right, when it became, I believe, 2014 or 2015, it became the most popular term, I believe, in some of the Forbes magazine, right? Like data science.
Yes.
So I think we came already a long way. Like now, the terminology data scientist and machine learning is much well defined. I believe going forward, it will be like it's going to be much robust in itself. But the journey I have taken, completing my PhD, coming to the industry, at that point of time, the role was not well defined. Like still, right now, it's little different based on the company what kind of jargon they use. But taking a 20,000 foot view, I believe data science and machine learning as a skill set wise, it's bread and butter. Until and unless you know how to do, look at exploratory data analysis, building the model, there is no way you will be able to have the notion of productionalize. However, the day-to-day job that you're going to be doing, it might be different, and it require some special software-based knowledge. For example, for ML ops or ML engineering, you need to know Airflow, ML flow. However, without knowing how, in the first place, the data scientist or data analyst or research scientist, right? What are the approaches they have taken to make the model, the hyperparameter tuning that you are using it? You might not be most efficient in your day-to-day tasks. So what are the softwares you are using? Yes, that can be varied, but knowing the end-to-end, targeting the business problem, what are the different steps being taken to solve it, right? So those are the kind of in the domain of, you can call it data analyst, data scientist, and the domain of research scientist is more kind of not using the existing off-the-shelf library, what are the cutting edge technique, and how we can optimize the compute and memory requirement for each and every algorithm. And finally, for the machine learning engineer, it's pretty much how we're going to productionalize, monitoring it, and making sure we can feed those parameters back to the data science and research team, who would be able to making sure if there is any kind of drift of the model, how we can go ahead, how proactively we can work on it. So as I mentioned, over the time, the definition is much crude right now, but I don't believe we are in that saturated state, but we are going there.
Actually, so yes, the definitions are not clear. Okay? again thinking from say consumer company, because vast majority of these jobs are going to be found at companies that are consuming large foundation models. So in many of those companies, the definitions are not very clear right now. Are you also saying that data science might be getting saturated?
No, what I want to mean, the definition of the definition of the role will become saturated. Like it would be well established. I think
Okay.
should it become
It's
saturated?
become more crisp and clear.
Yeah.
This is data science. This is ML. Because at some point it's an operational hassle to like what do you define, and because you need a person there. Okay. Interesting. Do you see the do you see a difference in number of job openings? To say more ML engineers are required than data scientists, or vice versa? Is that a thing?
I think the trend is shifting for sure, right? Because as I mentioned, 2014, how the data science world was reflected in.
Yeah, at that time it was more like it's a glorified statistician and analytics job.
Yeah.
Right now with ML, it is sort of becoming more serious.
Yeah, it's kind of making everything productionalized, right? As Manoj is saying, right? Like the trend right now, yes, we have a lot of algorithm that we have built. How we can add business value? So that's where I believe, that's one of the reason if you're doing a Google search string, obviously machine learning engineering job opportunity might be taking a stronger step.
Might be. So right now, ML engineering might be more. So the productionizing just needs more.
Yeah, I think that I don't want to stop at just data science or machine learning. There are a lot of peripheral um, systems to AI ML. So there was a talk I did at University of San Francisco long ago about how AI ML models come to life. So you can think of AI ML model that you're playing around with Jupyter Notebook, but then you can also look at an entire system that's come to life that's like serving either a feed ranking system or it's serving, say, trust and safety issues, solving trust and safety problems. And then you will see that there is a whole plethora of roles surrounding the AI ML roles that can get you as close as possible to the AI model, but still, keep you in your comfort zone of what you're good at.